Hello and welcome to today's video. This is English Made Easy by IBPS Guide. Today we will be looking at letter writing and we'll be discussing the essential differences between formal letters and informal letters. We will also be looking at templates and examples that will help you write effectively. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you a little about IBPS Guide. On our website, we provide you with free questions on a daily basis. You can use them to prepare for your banking exams as well as your SSC exams. You can also check out our test series, which are of the highest standards and come with detailed solutions to every question. We also provide you with smart analysis at the end of each test, which is a performance report, and you can use this to understand which areas you need to work on and which areas are your strengths. Our content is also available in Hindi and English as well. You can switch between the two as per your preference and what you're comfortable with. You can access our website through the desktop site and you can also access it through the mobile application. For more details on our quality mock tests, please visit our e-store at e-store.ibpsguide.com. Alright, so let's begin with format. First, let's take a look at formal letters and then we'll move on to informal letters. So the format for both letters is quite similar and is rather simple. It's the body of the letter that determines how well written it is. So let's take a look at the format. So first you have sender's address, space, date, space, receiver's designation, receiver's address, and then space, salutation, space, subject line, body, space, closing, and signature. Okay, so sender's address. If you are writing the letter, you have to write your address, your name and your address. Okay, so the date, it has to be in this format. If it's August 1st, it has to be 01 August 2018. All right, now receiver's designation. Say you're writing a letter to the bank manager of IOB. Okay, so you will write the manager. Next line, you will write Indian Overseas Bank. Next line, you will write the address of the bank. Okay, so that's what is supposed to be in the receiver's section. All right, salutation. What's a salutation? Dear sir or dear ma'am. That's what salutation is. Subject line. Subject line is a gist. Basically, it just tells you what the letter is about. The body, of course, is what you have to say. And the closing is where you say yours truly or yours sincerely. And signature will be your signature. Okay, so that is the format for formal letters. Okay, so let's begin with the salutation and the subject line. So salutations are the greetings used in a letter, right? Most commonly these days we use dear sir or dear ma'am. This is what we use in formal letters as well. And suppose you're writing to a high-ranking official. In that case, you can use respected sir or respected ma'am. That is, if you don't want to use dear. Okay, all right, and if you know the name of the person that you're writing to, you can also include their name, dear Mr. Mukil, or something like that. Okay, you don't need to use a comma after the salutation in a formal letter, but then again, it's not wrong. So if you have added a comma, it's all right, it's fine. But in modern formal letters, we don't use a comma at the end of salutations or greetings. Okay, so next, the subject line. The subject line is kind of like the headlines, you know, the headlines in a newspaper. It's very short, but it reveals all the vital information. When writing the subject line, there are two things that you can do to make it effective. First thing is that it does not have to be a full sentence, okay? And second thing is that you can begin your subject line with either a noun or a verb. So let's take a look at few examples. So suppose you're starting with a noun. Application for, request for, confirmation of, approval of, information required on, and so on. Okay, so for example, if you're writing a letter requesting permission for something, you can write the subject line as requesting permission. Okay, so that would be a verb. Applying for, awaiting approval of, seeking approval for, requesting permission, requesting information, and so on. So when you begin the subject line this way, it's more effective. And you can highlight the subject line in bold, or you can capitalize the entire subject line. The full subject line, you can enter it in caps. Okay, so let's move on to the next section. Okay, so now we are going to take a look at different types of formal letters, and we are going to discuss the body of the letter, and I'm going to give you 10 templates that you can use for a lot of different formal letters. Okay, so the first template is this. Introduce yourself and request a meeting. So you can start the body of your letter with something like this. As a second year student in the Executive MBA program, I am writing to request a brief meeting with you to discuss opportunities in the banking sector. Okay, so when you want to write a letter introducing yourself as part of another organization or as a student and you're requesting a meeting, you can start your letter like this. So when you start a letter like this, after this you will tell them a little bit more about yourself and what exactly you want to know. Okay, all right, so the next type is request information. I am seeking the answers to 2 questions about the new automated banking system. So you can start your letter like this when you're requesting information. So obviously when you say something like this, I have 2 questions, right? So after this you will say firstly, and you will ask your first question, secondly, and you will ask your second question. Okay, so that will be the format for the body of your letter when you're requesting for information. All right, next is request an extension. So when you have to request an extension on something like repaying something or your joining date or similar things like that where you require an extension, you need a little bit more time, you can use this format. I would like to request an extension on my joining date by a week since I only have the weekend to relocate. All right, so usually in this format, when you say I would like to request an extension, you have to mention for how long, right? You can't just be vague and say I want an extension. So obviously that person will want to know how long do you need. So when you say I need an extension, I would like to request an extension, you need to mention how long, be it a month or a week or 6 months, whatever the period. Okay, and you should also mention why. This is the format for requesting an extension. You absolutely must mention how long and why. Okay, all right, so the next is requesting approval. So this is the format when you're requesting approval for something. I would appreciate if you could approve the annual training project that will help employees achieve their annual performance goals. Here are the details. So obviously following this, you will give details about the project that you were talking about, the training project. You will mention how long, from which date to which date, for how many members and who are the speakers and things like that. So this will be the format for your requesting approval. All right, let's take a look at few more templates. All right, so let's take a look at the rest of the templates. Share information. I received some important statistical information from the head of the publishing department, and I believe it will be useful to you as you analyze the data. So when you're sharing information, you've received something from someone and you need to share it with someone else, you can use this format. I received some information. You can mention what information that is. and who you received it from, and you should mention, I believe it will be useful to you, or I believe that you should be receiving a copy of this information for such and such purpose. Okay, so that is how you will share information. So after this, you should be saying more about the data, right? If this is the body of your letter, I received some important statistical information from the head of the publishing department, and I believe it will be useful to you to analyze the data. So after this, you should be giving more details about what information you've received and what this person is expected to do with it. Okay, next, explaining policy changes. So suppose you are working in a bank and you have to write a letter to one of your clients explaining some change in the policy or some changes in the system, then this is how you should be writing. I want to let you know about a new banking policy that will be implemented in January. Okay, after this you should be saying this policy will help you do something. Okay, so you should be talking about the positives of the change, what positive things will happen due to this change in policy, and you should be talking about how it will benefit your client. Okay, next, apologizing for something. Please accept my apology for the delay in foreclosing your loan. I am sorry that a technical issue caused a delay in issuing the foreclosure documents. So when apologizing for something, first you have to say, please accept my apology for whatever, right? After that, you have to mention why that happened. Okay, so in this case, he is apologizing for a delay, right? Next line, he's explaining what caused that delay, and he's saying that he is sorry about that as well. So after this, you should be saying you should be giving details about the document, and you should be saying that the document has been dispatched and you will be receiving it within 24 hours or whatever, right? So basically details about that process you should be giving after this sentence. All right, so next, confirmation letter. I am happy to confirm our appointment for the 7th of August to discuss loan options. Okay, so this is how you will confirm an appointment or confirm something. Like it could even be a merger or it could even be a deal. I would like to confirm our deal as discussed in our last meeting. You can even say that, right? So after this sentence, you should be giving more details about what you're talking about. All right, so those are all the templates for formal letters. I hope that you will be able to use these templates for different types of formal letters and write effectively. All right, now that we have taken a look at the different ways to open the body of the letter and we've discussed different formats as well, let's move on to the closing. As discussed in the format, you need to allow a line space after the body before closing your letter. Business letters and formal letters are usually closed with thanks and regards, or sincerely, or regards. Okay, you can also close your letter saying yours faithfully or yours truthfully, but this is a little bit outdated and people don't really use this in business mails and official mails and letters anymore. But if you do use it, it's okay. It's not a mistake, it's not an error, it's just that it's a little bit outdated. Okay, so you remember when we were discussing the salutation, I told you that it's not necessary to add a comma at the end. But in the case of closing, you absolutely need to make sure that you have placed a comma at the end. Because in the next line, you will be adding your name or your signature. Okay? Alright, so I really hope that you now have an understanding about how to write an effective formal letter. Let's take a look at an example next. Okay, so this will be the example. Write a letter to the bank manager asking for time to repay the loan. Okay, so let's take a look at this example. So as discussed in the format, first you have your name and your address. So this is the sender's name and address. So Ravi is writing the letter. Ravi, house number, street name in the next line, city and pin code. Alright, so you have a space there and then you have the date in the given format, 20 July 2018. Alright, so you have a space again. Next line you have the designation of the person that you are writing the letter to. The manager. Next line Indian Overseas Bank. Next line you have the street address of the bank. Next line city and pin code. Okay, so after this you have the salutation, dear sir. Okay, so here there seems to be a comma, which is okay. I told you you can include a comma, and even if you don't, that is fine. Okay, so next in bold you have the subject line. Okay, I told you earlier, right? The subject line, you can either highlight it in bold or you can enter the entire thing in capital letters. So the subject line here is requesting extension on repayment of loan number. All right, so you can see that this subject line is starting with the verb. So you can either say request for extension on repayment of loan, or you can say requesting extension on repayment of loan. Both are correct and both of them are very good subject lines. Alright, so let's move on to the body of the letter. So this is one of the types that we discussed earlier. It's a request for extension. Okay, so you are using the same format. I would like to request an extension of 1 month on the payment of EMI against my personal loan, and you have the personal loan number in brackets. Since I am undergoing surgery this month and the expenses are more than previously anticipated. Okay, so this sentence is broken up into two. You can see a comma before since. I would like to request an extension of 1 month on the payment of EMI against my personal loan, since I am undergoing surgery this month and the expenses are more than previously anticipated. All right. Okay. I availed the personal loan on 20th July 2014 at an interest rate of 14.99% and have paid all previous installments without delay. I can guarantee on-time payment of future EMI till the completion of my loan period on 20th July 2019. Please consider my request and grant me extension for the same. So as you can see in the body of the letter, the first sentence tells you what exactly this person wants and why. Okay, so he's saying, I would like to request an extension against the EMI and all that. And then after the comma, he gives you the reason. He's telling you why he needs that extension. Okay, since I am undergoing surgery this month and the expenses are more than previously anticipated. So similarly, when you are requesting for something, you can say, I would like to request such and such thing, comma, since I need it for this purpose. Okay, you can use the similar format for different types of letters. Okay, after that he's giving you details about the loan that he is talking about. He's telling you when he availed the loan and the interest rate he availed it for. And he's telling you that he's paid all previous installments without delay. And he's saying this to gain trust, right? Because he wants to tell you that this is the first time he's asking for an extension. So then he again says, I can guarantee on-time payment of future EMI. So after telling you that this has never happened before, He's saying that this will never happen in the future either. Just this one time, I need an extension. Okay. So finally, he says, please consider my request and grant me extension for the same. Similarly, when talking about different things, you can end the body of your letter by saying something like this: please consider my request. Okay. All right. So now finally, you have your closing. It says thanks and regards and the name of the person. So this is one example that we've looked at. I hope that you were able to follow the entire letter and understand all the parts of the formal letter. All right then, so let's move on to informal letter writing. So let's take a look at the format first. So you have sender's address and you have space, then you have date, you have space, then you have salutation, space, body, space, closing, and signature. So as you can see, the receiver's address is not mentioned here, and it's not necessary to include the name and the address of the person that you are writing to. But even if you do include it, it's not a mistake. It's fine. It's all right to include it in informal letter writing as well, but you don't have to. Especially if you're writing to your mother or your brother, you don't really need to write the to address over there. Okay, so let's move on to the different aspects of informal letter writing. Okay, so let's take a look at the differences between formal letters and informal letters. The main difference between formal and informal letters is the way you express yourself, the way you express emotions. So let's take a look at all the differences. So in a formal letter, you have to have a subject line, and you can only include necessary information. Emotions expressed have to be limited. You cannot include unnecessary details, and you should not be redundant. Redundant means repetitive. You can't say the same thing over and over again. Okay. Informal letter. You can include extra details. You don't need a subject line. You don't have to reveal the purpose of your letter in the first sentence. Remember how we talked about formal letters, and I was saying that when you start the letter, you have to reveal the purpose in the very first line. You don't have to do that for an informal letter. Okay, then inquire about the well-being of the person. This is usually the first line in an informal letter. Dearest mom, how are you doing? I hope you and dad are fine. Things like this are usually the first sentence in an informal letter. You don't have to reveal the purpose of the letter in the very first line. Okay, next, you can include exclamatory sentences. This is something that you definitely should not be doing in a formal letter. Okay, in an informal letter, you can say, wow, mom, I got your gift. I love it. You can use exclamations in the informal letter. Okay, you can use idioms, right? You can use different types of idioms in your informal letter. Okay, next, include details about other people. So in your informal letter, you can talk about people that don't necessarily have anything to do with the matter of the letter, but you can still just say it, My friend or my roommate is learning to play the guitar, and it's very interesting. So this doesn't really have significance, but you can include things like this, details like this in an informal letter. Okay, finally, you can include personal beliefs or opinions, You can say things like, I think God blessed me with this opportunity. And it's fine because it's an informal letter. You shouldn't be saying things like that in a formal letter. But in an informal letter, there are no limitations. You're writing to someone that you know very well. So you can say whatever you want, and you can say it however you want. Okay, so let's move on now. So earlier we talked about how expressing emotion is the main difference between an informal letter and a formal letter, right? So let's take a look at both and we can compare. Okay, so expressing happiness in a formal letter to your boss regarding the job offer. Dear Sir, I am delighted to accept the opportunity to work for your organization as a news anchor and look forward to being a part of your team. Thanks and regards, Ravi. So this is what expression of happiness in a formal letter would sound like, because you cannot say too much. You cannot say, oh, I'm so excited, I'm extremely excited. You can't say things like that. It has to be short and to the point. Okay, now imagine you were saying the same thing to your mother. Okay, you're writing a letter to your mom and you want to tell her about the job offer that you've received and how happy you are. So let's take a look at the informal letter. Dearest Mum, I hope you and Dad are doing well. So this is the first sentence. We discussed this, that inquiring about the person's well-being is usually the first line in an informal letter. So that's what is happening here. The first line is, I hope you and Dad are doing well. Okay, next. I am extremely happy today and wanted to tell you about my job interview. So again, so you can see that, extremely happy. So this is an expression of emotion and you can only express it this way in an informal letter. You cannot do this in a formal letter. You can't say I'm extremely happy, right? But you can say that in an informal letter. So you're saying I'm extremely happy today and I wanted to tell you about my job interview. So again, even in the second sentence, the person has not revealed what exactly happened. He's just saying, I want to tell you about my job interview, but he's not told you what happened yet. Okay. Next sentence, I was actually quite nervous when I attended the interview and was not sure if I would get accepted or not. But I finally got the offer of employment today and I am on top of the moon. Okay, so here you can see they've used an idiom, on top of the moon. It means to be extremely, extremely happy. So when you are, something really good happens to you, you can say, I'm on top of the moon. So here they have used that expression. Okay, next sentence. I am so excited about becoming a part of the news reporting team. So you can see it's a little bit redundant. It's a little bit repetitive. You've already said I'm extremely happy about the job. Again, you're saying I'm extremely happy. You've already said I'm on top of the moon, right? It's a bit redundant, but that's okay. It's all right to be repetitive in the informal letter because that's how you express how happy you really are. Okay? All right. So next sentence. I still can't believe. Again, this is redundant. You've already said that you've gotten the job. You have, taken up the job and everything. But you're still saying, I can't believe I got into this company on my first try. I have friends who interviewed for this position more than once but could not get the job. So here you're including extra details, details about other people. So you're saying your friends interviewed for this job and they did not get this job. Next sentence is, I feel like I was destined to get this job. Now this is a personal opinion or a personal belief, right? He believes that he was destined to get this job. Okay, I will be reporting to work on the 1st of August and will have the weekends off. Shall we meet over the weekend to celebrate? Looking forward to hearing from you. Do tell Dad about this and tell him I am grateful for all the advice that he gave me regarding the interview. Okay, so finally he has given some information on when his job is going to begin and when he will have his days off. He's asking to celebrate with his family, and since he's writing this letter to his mother, he is telling her to inform his dad about all this and say thank you for all the advice that he gave regarding the interview. So finally, you're closing the letter by saying lots of love, Ravi. So lots of love is a very, very informal way of closing the letter, and you can only do this with people that you are very close to. If you're writing to friends or family, you can say lots of love. Otherwise, you can always say sincerely or regards or thanks and regards. Alright everyone, that's all for today's video. I hope you found the tips useful. Do leave your thoughts in the comment section below. We would love to know what topics you want us to cover in the next video. If you liked this video, please like, share and subscribe for regular updates. We will be uploading more tips and tricks videos and videos on vocabulary as well. As always, work hard and work smart.